Now, last year, we carried out some research to find out where advertising agencies were going wrong. And really interestingly, the number one thing that businesses complained about was that agencies didn't spend enough time to learn about them, their business, their offering, or their market. This is the B2B Performance Marketing Podcast by Webmarketer, here to help you make the right moves with your B2B advertising. No spin, no smoke and mirrors, just honest insights from the advertising frontline.
We're really passionate about helping small and under-resourced B2B marketing teams. So this podcast isn't here to add more to your to-do list. It's here to help you get more from what's already on it. Welcome back. I'm Maelien.
And I'm Louis. In the last episode, we explored what an advertising strategy is and why it's important. And so in today's episode, we're going to put some meat on the bones, or the veggie option, some cheese in the sandwich.
Ooh, cheese in a sandwich is a rubbish option, Lou. Let's go with putting carbonara on the spaghetti instead. So I've got a bit of a confession to make. This is actually going to have to be a 3-part series. So let's call this part 2A. Now, as promised, this is going to be a bit of an open book run through of our process for building out strategies here at Webmarketer. This is really our secret to how we get to a working ad strategy. And the best part here is that it's relatively easy to do.
But don't let that deceive you. While it's not necessarily difficult, the difference it's going to make to your ads performance is huge. Following this process is going to put you ahead of your competitors, because I can promise you, very few of them will have run through something like this before. Now, most of what we'll cover today is best run through as a group over a number of different sessions. So we've put together a workbook called the Breakthrough Blueprint. Now, the link is in the show notes for you, and you can go ahead and download that and work through it in your own time. So to give a bit of a table of contents, there are 6 steps in this process. The first one is Inception for setting budgets and targets. Next, you've got discovery for information gathering and story building. Third up, you've got competitor analysis to see what's being said and done out in the wild. Next, we've got audience and targeting research so that we can see all of the options for reaching our ICP. Next, we've got measurement to list out everything that we're going to need to track and figure out how we're going to gauge success. And finally, we've got strategy building, where we take all of these great learnings and stitch them together in a tailored and powerful strategy. In today's episode, we're going to focus on the first 3.
Okay, so step 1 is what we call Inception. Now, during the Inception meeting, we set the North Star for what we're aiming for. This just makes sure that you're always heading in the right direction. Now, I'm very aware that budgets and targets usually originate in the boardroom. And if we're being brutally honest, they're usually plucked from thin air and don't have any grounding in the real world. So with this first exercise, we're going to end up with a data-backed approach. We're going to start out here by answering these core questions. What percentage of leads converts to sale? So what's your close rate? What's your average lifetime profit on each customer? How much or what percentage of that lifetime profit can you spend to acquire a new customer? And how many new customers do you need each month? Now, I'm going to run through a bit of an example of how to use your answers here. And just a bit of forewarning, you might want to grab a pen and paper and perhaps open up the video version of this where we'll show it on the screen as well. So let's say your close rate is 10%. So 10 of your leads turn this into 1 paying customer. Let's also say that the average lifetime profit is £10,000 and you're also willing to spend 20% of that to acquire a new customer. So that's £2,000 per new customer. Now, let's say your target is 10 new customers a month. So that's the £2,000 for acquiring a new customer times the 10 new customers that you want a month. And that gives you a $20,000 per month spend in order to get those 10 new customers. Then based on those 1 in 10 leads turning into a customer, that means that you're going to need 100 leads a month in order to get those 10 customers. And your max cost per lead here is going to be £200.
Okay, so now that your budget and your targets are locked down, it's a really good idea to go and check in your ads accounts to make sure that these are realistic. We'll do an episode all about budgets and targets in future, but sticking with strategy, let's jump in and talk about discovery. Now, last year, we carried out some research to find out where advertising agencies were going wrong. And really interestingly, the number one thing that businesses complained about was that agencies didn't spend enough time to learn about them, their business, their offering, or their market. So this is massively important. Right now, there are 43 questions as part of our discovery process, and we run through these as part of a 90-minute workshop with our clients. In the interest of keeping this episode under 15 minutes, I'm not going to list them all out now. But these questions specifically do make up the bulk of the Blueprint Breakthrough workbook I mentioned earlier. Again, we'll make sure that the link is in the show notes for you. What I will do, though, is run through kind of a loose summary so you can get an idea of the different sets of the questions and why they're there and what they do. So there's questions around the performance baseline, so capturing things like ad spend, lead volume, close rate, and things like that. This is there to anchor your current performance so that you can measure progress in the future. Then there's questions around the audience and the offer. So really understanding the story of the business, the services, your ICP, and also really digging into any curveballs that are thrown up during the sales process. This is going to really help you nail your ads and landing pages so that all of your traffic and leads are much more sales ready. There's questions around differentiation and proof. So what makes you stand out in the market? So who your competitors are, who your industry leaders are, case studies, stats, social proof, achievements, certificates, awards, that kind of thing. Again, this is all absolute gold that you can use in your ads and your landing pages. We also cover questions around seasonality and the business calendar. So to make sure that any peak months, trough months, industry events and promotions are all factored into your thinking. And then the final set of questions are all around harvesting what's worked to date. So are there any headlines, images, offers, videos, or lead magnets that have helped to move the needle? This really helps avoiding launching from a standing start where you can.
What we're really doing as part of this process is building out a collection of insights that we can reference. Inception gave us budgets and targets. Discovery gave us everything that we need to consider. And next up, we're going to be looking at the competitor landscape. We want to know how much competitors are spending, what kind of targeting they're using, what they're saying in ads, what they're saying on their landing pages, and what conversion mechanisms that they're using to make people break cover. Now, during the discovery process, you will have identified which competitors that you want to be looking at. For each one of these competitors, you're going to want to create a paid traffic report. And for this, you can use tools like SpyFu or SEMrush. Now, it's important to note that a lot of the insights you're going to get are around paid search, especially around budgets and targeting. You're going to want to save off monthly budgets by competitor and their search keyword list. It's really important to note the type of keywords being used here. Are they high intent? Are there any unexpected phrases or words that are used here? Is there anything missing? And if there is, why might that be? Next, you're going to want to run through each of the competitors on your list and have a really good run through of their ads. You can use tools like SpyFu and SEMrush again here to have a look at their search ads, but you can also use publicly available tools like the Google Ads Transparency Center to see what other types of ads they're running across Google, the Meta Ads Library to see what they're running on Facebook and Instagram, and the LinkedIn Ads Library to see what they're running across LinkedIn. A simple Google search will give you quick access to any one of these. Here, you're going to want to pay really close attention to what they're doing in their ads. So are they using specific hooks? Is there a certain audience that they're calling out? Is there a type of ad format that is regularly used here? And is there a certain call to action that's often used throughout? Again, save off everything that you've noticed to reference later. And then finally, we're going to want to take a look at landing pages. I'll typically get a list of landing pages here from SEMrush and then go into each one and take a full page screen capture of this using a Google Chrome extension called Go Full Page. For landing pages, you want to look at a few things here. The masthead, so list off anything that you see above the fold here. The headline, what are they using in the call to action button? What's going on in the form? Is there any supporting copy that they're using under the call to action button? Again, anything that you can observe here is going to be really useful to note down. And the point here is to get a really good understanding of what's consistent across your different competitors. Next, you want to have a deeper look at the headline here. So what pain point, desire, or emotion is it targeting? And if it isn't targeting any of them, then that's actually great because the bar that they've set here is really low to beat. You also want to look at trust building and social proof. So what are they doing here to stamp out the worry of buyer's remorse? Because that really is the enemy here. And finally, what are they using to get people to break cover? What's the promise here, and what's the mechanism that they're using to capture the lead? For example, book a demo with an interactive calendar, or get a quote with an online calculator, or the low bar option of get in touch with a simple contact form. Conversion mechanisms are often the unlock here for high conversion rates and high lead quality. So make sure you're paying really close attention here, list out the conversion mechanisms your competitors are using, and think also what else could you do that they aren't.
So that's 3 of the 6 steps in this process, which means that it's the end of part 2A. We've talked about how to set realistic budgets and targets. We've talked about how to capture all of the essential information that you need to factor in. And we've also talked about how to assess what's already happening out in the wild. Join us on the next episode where we talk through audience and targeting, measurement, and then how to wrap it all together into a powerful strategy solution.
If you found this useful, please leave us a review. Our goal is to remove the smoke and mirrors from the B2B advertising world, and reviews really help us towards this. And if you've got a burning question or you're facing a challenge that you'd like us to explore, just let us know. You can head to webmarketeruk.com/topic and fill in the form. We really want to make every episode as useful as possible, and we read every single message. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.